Ladies and gentlemen, the Football Scoop podcast is back. Week 1 is in the books. Duke did Clemson. Duke did Clemson. It was fantastic. Golly, it was fun to watch college football. Florida State did LSU. Oh, man, the locker room scene after Mike Norvell, after that game, was amazing. Norvell's a legit ball coach, and he's fun to watch. Great dude. Gentlemen, I am Scott Roussel, Guide College Football Experts, Zach Barnett, John Brice, Doug Samuels. Great to see you guys. I'm going to go around the horn. We'll start with Zach and work our way clockwise. I want to hear quick thoughts. Week 1, what did you love to see?
I mean, we gotta. It's been beaten over the head at this point. It's going to continue to be the dominant storyline in the sport. But my top headline was just how competent and well coached Colorado looked. And I mean, I don't think this team's going to go off and win the Pac-12 or anything like that. But they are so much better than I thought they were going to be, and they are going to be the storyline of the sport until they're not.
That's coming a long way from one win a week ago, in the bold prediction. So Zach's sipping on the Kool-Aid. I think it's right there by him. It's on ice.
For me, it's the chaos, Colorado included, but FSU, just the way it smacked down LSU, and certainly Duke, what it did to Clemson Monday night. I think that it's going to fairly cause more questions than just one bad game about Clemson. Clemson's now lost 3 out of 4 and 4 out of 7, I believe, dating back to last season. That's a stretch that program has not had in over a decade. So to me, those are some of the elements that stick out from the weekend. But the chaos is back, and that's always a good thing.
Always a good thing.
We've been talking for the past year or two about, maybe the last 3 or 4, honestly, about transfer portal and NIL money coming into play, and how I personally don't think that's great for the overall benefit of the game. What I think you're seeing is the good teams are getting better, which is good for the game at the high level. It's going to be very well coached, a lot of very good athletes. The top 15 are going to just ball, and it's going to be beautiful to watch. That's great. It's not good for the game, the lower 65, the quote group of 5, so to speak. Those teams are getting decimated, and you see some teams at that level that just aren't there. And that concerns me a little bit for the overall health of the game. FCS ball continues to be phenomenal. I don't know if you guys got to catch any FCS over the weekend, including a couple stunners, but FCS stuff is fantastic. All right, Zach, give me 2 or 3 teams you want to talk about after week 1.
Can we talk about LSU?
Okay. All right, so LSU's secondary was going to be a weakness, and it was exposed as a weakness. I was stunned by how the LSU coaching staff opted to use Harold Perkins. I thought they effectively took him out of the game. I didn't understand why you wouldn't just have him go destroy the ball possessor. I really thought that was unusual. I thought I've told this story 100 times. The difference between LSU and Alabama is Alabama's offensive line looks like Adonis. LSU's offensive line looks like a bigger version of me. LSU's offensive line just can't move the entire defensive line 5 yards down the field when they need to. They got stuffed a couple of times early, and they got skill players. They got plenty of skill players. The offensive line struggled. D-backs got exposed, and the scheme on defense, I was a head scratcher. Special teams once again weren't very good. The biggest change you're going to see in college football typically, right, is week 1 to week 2. You figure out, okay, that's what we didn't get right in August. Now let's go get it right heading to week 2. And LSU has Grambling, an in-state team who's not very good right now. So LSU is going to get some things right against Grambling, then get towards the SEC. I think they have Mississippi State and Arkansas thereafter. I suspect LSU is in it at the very end. All you got to do is win the West to have a shot at the SEC championship. Obviously, gets you to the playoffs. I still think LSU's everything's in front of them. They just got to pull it together and win, make some changes, and not get exposed in the defensive backfield.
So you think that you use that word exposed. I mean that when you get exposed, to me that means that that's something that's really hard to fix. Like you have major issues there that probably aren't the saviors probably aren't sitting there on your bench.
Well, so I don't think you're right in that case. I think there's two guys that are, quote, saviors, and they're called pass rushers. Mason Smith didn't play in the game. He is an unbelievably athletic big man. He's going to come in and wreak havoc. They were talking about Mekhi Wingo, played very well, big, strong guy. Mason Smith is a difference maker. So you put him on one side and you put Harold Perkins on the other side, and you say, hey, instead of that quarterback having 3.5 seconds, we're going to give him half of 1 second to throw the ball, to get out of there, to get off his first read. And that changes everything. That helps hide a little bit of your deficiencies in the back end. So I think that is very changeable.
I would also point out that LSU did not have John Emery, which is maybe the most defining characteristic of his career, not being able to play a season opener. But then they also did not have Logan Diggs, the transfer running back from Notre Dame. Both of those guys are extremely good college football running backs. With LSU having neither of those against the Seminoles, I also thought that that made the offensive line's job that much harder.
Agreed.
I'm not trying to make an excuse for LSU, but I mean the reason coaches like to schedule those cupcake games, and FCS or guarantee games that first week, is you're still trying to figure out who you are. You can't figure out who you are through camp when you're facing the same scheme or the same players. So to play on a national stage like LSU and Florida State was on, they're both still trying to figure themselves out. I think Florida State knows a little bit more who they are than LSU does at this point, but that's one of the luxuries you don't get in one of those primetime games. You don't get any grace trying to figure out who you are from a coaching perspective.
LSU lost to Florida State last year in game 1 as well. Came back, beat Alabama at home. We got a long way to go, guys.
They did.
Yeah, but they also lost 4 other
year.
games last year, or ended up losing 4 total games. So the measurement of progress was reset this year because of last year's success. So you're not going to define your season this year by beating Alabama if you lose a bunch of other games when you entered the season preseason number 5.
And it was 31-0 in the second half at one point. Like this was a different loss than last year.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of football to be played, boys. It's 0-1. Let's go 1-0 this week. All right, what other teams we want to talk about?
We got to talk about Clemson.
Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
I said we got to talk about Clemson. I mean, coming out of last year, my thought was this is just going to be a top 15 program moving forward, not a top 5 program. It's hard to get to the top. It's even harder to stay at the top. Then you go hire Garrett Riley. That seemed to change the paradigm around the conversation around that program. And then they went out and just could not get out of their own way. I didn't really see any difference makers on either side of the ball for Clemson last night. Like this looks like an 8-4 team to me.
Schematically, I didn't feel like I saw much of Garrett Riley's offense.
No. I mean, it seemed like the Clemson offense.
It looked like the old Clemson offense. I was like,
Doug, you're a coach. What did you see?
I mean, I caught a little bit of the game last night after practice. We pushed practice back, but I would agree. It seemed like Garrett Riley wasn't the I don't want to say handcuffed. I think handcuffed is a strong word, but I think he was kind of steered. And it seems like he was steered into, hey, this is the Clemson offense. This isn't your offense. So he didn't have the same DNA that he did at TCU. And granted, it's different players and stuff. You don't hire a guy like that to tell him what he should run. You give him the keys to the Ferrari and turn him loose.
I agree. I thought Clemson's offensive line struggled all night with Duke's defensive line. That's not a great statement. I'll tell you, throughout the game, and especially in the fourth quarter, Duke's guys looked right. I mean, they're bringing in the announcers brought it up late in the game, but throughout the game, they're shuttling in new defensive linemen just constantly. And you're like, that guy looks better than that guy. And then this guy. And then these guys look amazing. And they just looked right. Dave Feely is their strength coach. Guy's been around the block. He's a stud. I got some text this morning about Duke's offseason program. It was one for the books. They changed some things there. Duke looks absolutely legit.
Yeah, and they were the fresher team. They certainly had more juice and energy at the end of the game. And I would note this about Clemson from a big picture standpoint, kind of what we've all already alluded to. They've got a couple of money games coming up the next 2 weeks. And then the ACC has its most important game of the year, September 23rd, when Florida State goes to Clemson. Clemson could be eliminated from so many different things before September flips to October if they lose that game at home to Florida State.
Dabo's got some changes. He's
First
got
time
to
I saw
that
I
happens.
saw the stat. It's the first time Clemson had been 108-0 when they rushed for 200 and threw for 200. And they did both of those last night, and they outgained Duke by 100 yards and still lost that game. Lost that game going away because of their own mistakes.
Agreed. Their own mistakes. It wasn't like their defense was terrible. Their defense wasn't great, but their defense wasn't bad. It was Clemson's mistakes, and maybe Duke put them into those. But the fact that in the second half they didn't score and they didn't punt was fascinating to me. It's mistakes.
Clemson
I'd love
in
to know
the
the
second
last
half.
time that happened in a major college football game. A team gets shut out and does not punt in a half. That's amazing.
Clemson in the second half and and LSU in the second half looked remarkably similar in both their contests. Just a failure to execute and deliver.
Scott, LSU was 31-7 in the second half, and the 7 was a garbage time touchdown. They got boat raced.
Oh, I know, but Clemson didn't. Clemson drove the ball to the 2 to the 1, and then they got backed up. They backed themselves off, and they fumbled, and then they missed the kick. And Clemson was better than LSU in the second half. LSU just kind of threw it away, I thought.
Okay, yeah, no, I agree. I thought
Clemson didn't give up.
No,
they just weren't able to get things done.
Neither one scored and neither one executed to speak of in the second half.
Okay. All right, other teams. Quick thoughts. Anything?
How about Oklahoma boat racing Arkansas State? It looked like Butch Jones kind of broke down on the sideline there and had to get picked up by a player. And then his post-game press conference said it's the most improved team he's ever seen. Really, it's not me, it was them. They were just so drastically improved, and he felt like the team speed from last year to this year was completely different. But I mean, Oklahoma treated Arkansas State like they were an FCS team, winning 73-0. I think the only larger margin of victory was Oregon and Portland State, 81-7. So that's some Power 5, Group on 5 crime right there.
I did not see what you described there because we just kind of glossed over it. Tell me what happened. You said Butch, like he broke down the field and a student had to get him up. What happened?
I think game was out of hand, but he was on a knee on the sideline, tears in his eyes. Player comes up and taps him on the shoulder like, "Hey, it's going to be all right, coach. It's going to be all right." And Butch kind of begrudgingly gets up and like it's the last place he wanted to be. It was not a good look.
No, it was not a good look. It was a sad look. It was like every iteration of the word sad. It was a sad look, and I think it was a coach realizing where he was just a few years ago, and now how this make or break season is starting for him. That's more than a 73-0 loss for Butch Jones.
Oklahoma passing the ball in that game was 30 of 33 for 422 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Both quarterbacks, Dylan Gabriel, Jackson Arnold, had QBRs above 95. I've never seen a team throw the ball that many times as efficiently as they did. I mean, Arkansas State, definition of overwhelmed. Now, if you allow me to be a little bit of a hater for a team that won 73-0, Oklahoma did not really, running the ball, they did not blow Arkansas State off the ball. I mean, their leading running back, Javonte Barnes, 49 yards and 13 carries, long run of 16.
You just said they're 30 of 33. Why do you need to run the ball if you're passing at a 90% clip?
You don't need to, but it's not like they were just gashing holes open when they did run the ball.
No, but they were throwing the ball super effectively. They didn't need to run the ball.
Yeah.
I'm fired up for a number of games this weekend. And even before we get to Saturday, I find the Illinois at Kansas matchup Friday night incredibly intriguing. And Kansas is debuting these ridiculously fire all black uniforms with a throwback Jayhawk logo from like 1945 or something. What Lance and that crew have done in Lawrence is phenomenal, and I'm really truly excited to see that atmosphere on Friday night. To see that game on TV after what they did last year and the momentum they created, and then that spins us into Saturday, and we have a splendidly good Saturday slate of games, especially for it to be so early in the season. And obviously, Texas Bama is the headliner, but you've got Utah at Baylor at noon on Saturday, which is a sneaky good and critically important game for Baylor. And then you've got some other good matchups, Texas A&M at Miami. How much are those two programs improved? So I'm really fired up for this Saturday.
Baylor's quarterback being out kind of just like kind of takes some of that excitement out of that one. But Baylor will still fight.
I think I haven't. I mean, I don't think Blake Shapen has been all that impressive going back to last year. I think there's a decent chance that Sawyer Robertson, the Mississippi State transfer, could get that job and keep it.
Thought Shapen's kind of a winner, but okay. How about Notre Dame, NC State this weekend, upcoming?
Yeah, I think Notre Dame is lucky that ABC put that game in the noon slot because Carter Finley Stadium is a tough spot to play for a lot of ACC teams as well. And a night game, I think, would have ratcheted up the stakes a little bit for Notre Dame. Notre Dame people are kind of viewing it as the true beginning of their season after the Navy game in Dublin and then the cakewalk against Tennessee State over the weekend. So it will be the first true litmus test. I know I watched NC State UConn pretty closely last Thursday night and was not overly impressed with NC State's athleticism. They're always a very tough team. They always play very smart football, but they did not blow me away with their skill and athleticism. So as Doug has noted more than once correctly, most improvement is week 1 to week 2. We'll learn a lot more about NC State and Notre Dame on Saturday.
Tell you guys, I thought Kansas State looked very, very good this week. They've got Troy coming to town. Two football teams that embody their head coaches. Hardworking, lunch pail type guys, salt of the earth, great humans. K-State's really good. If Troy shocks them, if Troy's fighting them, slugging them out, that tells me Troy's really good. We'll see. Any thoughts on that one?
Probably one of the few matchups between defending conference champions we're going to get all season long. K-State lost to Tulane last year, so I'm sure that's going to be brought up that by Chris Kleiman that we're the defending Big 12 champions, yada, yada, yada. We are not above losing to Troy in any way, shape, or form, and we need to bring our best effort to win this game.
You guys know I love South Alabama head coach Kane Womack, phenomenal guy. I thought their efforts were a little misguided trying to claim Mardi Gras. Tulane appropriately, NOLA representing here, appropriately put them in their place because of that miscue. So Tulane looked pretty good against South Alabama. Tulane's got Ole Miss coming to New Orleans. Any thoughts on that one, gentlemen?
Yeah, I think that's a sneaky, very compelling matchup. I guess Michael Pratt maybe got banged up a bit in the game against South Alabama, so monitoring his situation at quarterback for Tulane will be the key to that game, in my opinion, because Pratt's really good, and I don't think even with the home field advantage or home field crowd or whatever, I don't think Tulane can beat Ole Miss if Pratt for some reason can't play.
This was the hardest game. We've turned in our rough draft of our picks already for me. I just went through. This is the hardest game of the weekend to pick. I went back and forth a lot. I ended up going with Tulane, but I may change that once or twice before we get to Saturday.
I didn't get to see almost any of the second half of Texas Rice. I thought Texas was going to come out and be a little bit stronger than they looked. I recognize they're playing Rice and they're playing Bama the next week. So as a coach, you're going there, you're like, all right, let's make sure we're good, but then let's not reveal too much perhaps. First half didn't inspire me much regarding Texas. Alabama looked okay. Texas, Alabama, give me some thoughts on that one.
From a Texas perspective, you'd like to see more progress on the interior of the offensive line than you did, and you'd like to see more progress on Quinn Ewers' deep ball than you did. Quinn was 0 for 6 throwing the ball beyond 20 yards down the line of scrimmage, beyond the line of scrimmage, and but particularly both guards spots struggled. So it's hard to have confidence going into Bryant Denny when you can't protect up front, don't get much of a push, and you're putting a lid on your own offensive ability by being unable to throw the ball. Having said that, defense looked fantastic. Quinn looked really good, really sharp in the RPO game. And so you have to think that they're going to feature a lot of that. It's just the question is, can they, if they scheme open stuff down the field, can they protect it and can they complete it? They're going to have to do that to beat Alabama.
I think it's a coming out party for Alabama. I think Alabama wins by 2 or 3 touchdowns. That's what I'm going to. I'm not. I'm just don't bet against Nick Saban. And Nick Saban's going to play his best in big games. I say it's a two touchdown game. Mark my words.
Wow.
Doug's take was so hot, they had steam coming out of his ears, has knocked his AirPods out.
That's one I won't pick it until the absolute end of the deadline to get the picks into you, Scott, because I'm completely torn on that one. Texas was so close to winning a year ago, and I realized that was in Austin, but Alabama was much more set at quarterback a year ago than this year. I did think Tommy Rees did a nice job of putting Jalen Milroe into position to succeed and really boost his confidence up against MTSU. But Alabama still, I think, has some questions to address at the wide receiver position. I think Alabama still doesn't really know quite what it has with Jalen Milroe and Texas's ability. If Texas can force Milroe to try and beat it through the air, then I really like the Longhorns' chances.
All right, I got 3 more. I'm going to ask you guys for quick thoughts, quick feedback only if you want to chime in. Texas A&M's at Miami.
I'd like to see if Miami has a pulse as a program. They won the Miami Bowl. They won that, but let's see how much they've progressed. Home game should be a great atmosphere there. We're constantly asking, is the U back? Is the U back? Show me some life. If you can win this is a winnable game. They got in their own way last year a lot in the loss at College Station. This is a tough game, but a winnable game for the Canes.
I'm not sure who I think this game is more important for, just because it's still early on for Mario. It's still just game 2 of his second year there. Jimbo Fisher is supposed to be having his team in the college football playoff by now at Texas A&M. So Miami needs this game, but I don't underestimate how much Texas A&M really needs this game.
Agreed. I think Miami's going to play well. I thought they played well last week. Kirk Ferentz and the offense shocked the world with 2 passing touchdowns in the first half, I believe. Then they still didn't hit the mark. They got Iowa State. What's happening here, boys?
It's hard to know what Iowa State that program is in. I mean, it's a black box around that program right now. Iowa has traditionally handled even the best Iowa State teams. I believe Iowa State finally got them last year, but when you had it was really cooking there for the Cyclones in that 2019-2020 range. Iowa won it every single year, so I'm taking Iowa again.
Yeah, those rivalry games, you never really know which way the coin's going to fall, but I feel like you can't bet against Kirk Ferentz in an in-state rivalry game. It seems like he takes care of business a lot more times than he doesn't. And I'm not going to say the Hawkeyes score more than 25, but I think they will.
The magical number.
They're not going to. All right. Mac Brown choked out Shane Beamer's team. Almost choked Shane out. App State's coming to Chapel Hill. App State going to shock them, going to surprise them, or is Carolina legit?
No. App State had its hands full throughout with Gardner-Webb, which we know Coach Lamb has done a fabulous job with Gardner-Webb. But, I mean, this was App State had all it could do to win that game. And I'm much more of a believer in North Carolina because that was the most competent defense I've seen out of North Carolina in quite some time, to go with the guy who is, I think, definitely right now the number 2 quarterback pro prospect in college behind Caleb Williams.
Agree. I'd like to see North Carolina's defense continue what it put on tape against South Carolina. Because, I mean, they struggled mightily against App State last year.
Drake May is legit. It was like Gene Chizik completely threw out the playbook from last year. Totally different style of defense, far more attacking, much better results, obviously. All right, I got one more for you. SMU's at Oklahoma. This could be a legit awesome football game, in my opinion. Any thoughts?
I mean, I think SMU has a chance to compete for the AAC title. Their passing game should be as good as anyone in that conference. I think Oklahoma probably wins, but I think SMU has the ability to make Oklahoma sweat in a way that Arkansas State did not.
You know, when I see this matchup listed, all I can think about is that is college basketball, because in a couple of years we might get an ACC SEC showdown between SMU and Oklahoma.
Nothing says ACC SEC like SMU Oklahoma.
Oh, realignment.
Thank you. I couldn't have said that. Should be a bumper sticker.
Mm-hmm.
Realignment is terrible. Guys, week 1 was phenomenal. Week 2 undoubtedly will be even better. I'm looking forward to watching every game. Hope you guys are doing great. Thank you guys for joining us on the Football Scoop podcast, and we're out.